Well, we're live. Here I am again. Another episode of Power Grab. This one, a little different than we've been doing. This one is actually an addendum to a set of videos that are currently on the Daily Life Army YouTube page. This is a follow-up. It's been over a year, but I wanted to make a follow-up to it, so I figured I'd just do it on live stream and just send it over when I'm ready. Before we get into it, you know what day it is today? It is the 19th day of Casper, year 10, here in the Pleasure Matrix. And, well, it's funny I'd even bring up time again. I wasn't going to bring up time too much, but it goes along with what the subject of today's news. I really like the 13-month calendar. Like, I really, really like it. I don't think you understand how nice it is to not have, like, random days thrown in by the Gregorian or Julian calendar to just intentionally just mess you up. It's just there to mess you up. What day of the week is it? I don't even know. And why? Because in this world, in the Pleasure Matrix, the 13-month calendar, you know that if it's the 19th of the month, it is always an all day. Always. And if you know it's an all day, you might even be able to figure out what day of the month it is, even if you weren't paying that much close attention. It helps you not have to pay attention so closely to the calendar, which is useful if you'd like to live a long time. In fact, if you'd like to live forever, it'd be essential to not have to actually pay attention to what day it is all the time. At any rate, I do have a little bit of update, though, since yesterday, because it's just too good. Like, Twitter's earning report came out, and it was bad. It was bad, and they're, like, blaming Musk for it being bad. What does that even mean? Because, like, your Facebook, your Twitter ad revenue went down because he started asking whether this is all bots or not? Shut up. You never even care about your Twitter ad revenue. You don't care about it. That's not why you exist. Shut up. Liars. Just lying about why they exist every day. Every day. In fact, today, I will go here. Today on Daily Life Army's Twitter, I was posting, and after I posted was another article about sex trafficking and abuse that's not us, because we are not sex traffickers nor sexual abusers of anyone. It was a story about the, maybe you've heard of them, the Turpin family from California. They were, like, trapped all 13 of their children well into their 20s in their house and were abusive to them. The family, one of the daughters got away, 17-year-old, I think at the time, got away and found help. But what happened after that was chaotic as all get out, and the county and CPS and a contracting company they were using called ChildNet. People will do a whole live stream on this, but the fact you don't believe words and names is weird, or art, or you don't believe any of it. ChildNet. Why would you use something called that? Clearly, it's not to help children. ChildNet contractor are being sued by the kids now because they were sent into foster care where they were abused. Some more. Yeah. The kids that were under 18. And there was a few of them. They were kept together and then separated. It was just a mess. So they're being sued in court. The county, the foster family, their own not their parents. They already went to prison for the rest of their lives. And ChildNet, they're being sued. I was posting that. I posted it, and right after that, Sparky shows me a based on your likes, Daily Life Army. Based on your likes, the tweet was a black and white drawing, hentai drawing for the avatar, and the tweet said something like, "She's only 10, but she cries when she remembers her past, when she thinks about her past." And I was like, and it said, based on your likes, see more of this? So I took a screenshot to repost it and say what I'd like to say here. Sparky, you know we don't like anything. So that suggestion was definitely not based on our likes. The Life Army doesn't like anything on Twitter other than other Pleasure Matrix stuff, and none of it is about that shit. So one can only presume that you're suggesting this disgusting piece of content, because you believe bots and anon accounts that call us sex traffickers and abusers. And yet you're serving up disgusting grooming content. Just saying, maybe you're programmed to do a job that isn't the job everyone says you're doing. Maybe you're programmed to do a job to get more of that going on in the world. Ritual sex abuse and sacrifice death cult that you work for. Perhaps that's what's going on, and that other people can't see that. It seems really weird. Anyway, I will continue. That's just my Twitter update. Twitter's disgusting, and Twitter is going down. Twitter update from yesterday. Their revenues are in the toilet. Anyway, besides that, let's get on to this other subject. This other subject of the addendum to the Big Lies series. Now, the Big Lies series, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, whatever. It's on Day Life Army's YouTube, which if you put in Day Life Army on YouTube, all one word, you will find the channel. It's not hard to find. It comes up, unless you're on a restricted computer and you can't see anything that's not just for kids on YouTube. Otherwise, it should be there. We may be throttled, but we're not totally hidden. Not on YouTube, not yet. I mean, Temple got taken down with no explanation or conversation or violation of anything. Just disappeared all the content. Wow, imagine that. But Day Life Army's up there. It was mostly deleted by disgruntled soldiers who didn't like everyone seeing the story that wasn't evil. Because then how would they prove that we were evil if the story that everyone saw was just everyone doing what they do, including maybe not having fun every second, but that's just living, you know. At any rate, because we don't hide that stuff. So clearly, I don't know. If you think that's abuse that we don't hide it, then I don't know what to tell you. It's still up, though. It's just like missing a lot of content. Moving on. The series that's up there is called Big Lies, about 4 large lies. But the Pain Matrix has spent a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy supporting, perpetuating, getting everyone excited about, and getting everyone on board with. So big lie number 1 was wet spinning ball Earth, as opposed to other, maybe flat versions of being on Earth plane. Don't get too into Earth being a projection or not, or a simulation inside. Doesn't get into that. It just gives a little bit of intro to just maybe consider the fact that maybe this isn't a wet spinning ball. That's all. Just give it some thought. The second big lie was on the subject of time. And, gives a little bit of doesn't go too far into it, tags a few other accounts that talk about time, talks about our new time calendar for Pleasure Matrix, but gets into Mud Flood, Antiquitech, a little bit of that stuff, but doesn't get crazy into any of it. It's just supposed to be a little intro, why don't you take a look at it? Why don't you see what happens when you take a look at it? You may find some things out that you didn't expect, whatever. The third big lie discussed is the gender, I call it gender spaghetti or something. It's a mess. And it has nothing to do with it. The big lie part of it doesn't have as much to do with current gendered insanity. It had to do with the fact that, and I barely talked about it because you can barely say anything. Certain words trigger the Sparky to take you down when you start talking about it. But it discussed, which I've said maybe in another live at some point, the big lie that the idols put on display, from celebrities, politicians to royals to celebrities, politicians, royals, even just anchor people, men and women, anyone that's put on the big screen, the big black mirror, with consistency and success. Not that no one can get on without this. It's just you're never going to know their name or see them very often, or they're just only going to be known in kind of a niche way. I know this because it's happened in my family. They're going to be underground stars, but never mainstream stars. They are actually gender inverts. They're secret trans. We call them P-trans for power trans, because that's what it's about. It's about wielding power. Because, you know, having a secret makes you real interesting on the Black Mirror. Like, that's what people can't look away. I mean, before this lie was even like a more publicly discussed, they did it archetypally all the time. I mean, Rihanna, good girl gone bad, right? And Beyonce, bad girl gone good, which is also weird because it doesn't quite work. Sierra, same thing. No, Sierra, good girl gone bad. All right. They do it archetypally all the time, doing a flip. Because flips keep people guessing and wondering and what is going on. Do it with sexual orientation, some too, and Ryan Seacrest, or like, you know, like these people never have sex with this man never had sex with a man before, that kind of stuff, because it keeps people going like, wow, they have something. What is it? You got that spark. You got that. It's like, you got that, like, you can't actually, you cannot actually, no matter when you do it, in utero, anytime, you can't actually change someone's biological sex. You can't do that. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. It doesn't matter when you try to do it. It doesn't matter when you tried to do it. When it comes to, well, we've talked about it before a little bit, but linear or vertical or horizontal genetic production, like horizontal is the only one Satan's capable of, and a lot of stuff people do now comes from that technology, that science, getting into it, and it just isn't the same. And it's a vibe. It is a vibe, and it's everywhere. So that one was, we just did them in order of like, how much can you really talk about it? Because people don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it at all. So that was number 3. And number 4, it's even harder to talk about because no one really wants to talk about it at all. It's like, what ethnicity of people are really running the show? And it's not who you think anyone's going to say. It's not who you think a black person is going to say. It is. It's not who you think. Ever since we did the video, few people started talking about it. Now, people who are from this ethnicity do talk about it way more, or started to way more in the last couple of years. People who are from the outside of this ethnic group don't talk about it at all, and only started talking about it after I did video number 4, big lie number 4. Because it turns out it's an even smaller group of people than you would think, or people have been presuming and putting out. They even put a group out front to be like, no, they run everything. You should be really, really scared of them, and they run everything because they've been running everything so well and so secretly from behind the scenes that they didn't want anyone to know. And it's part of their ethos, it's part of their cultural ethos to be very influential, but not heard or seen or heard. So you can guess who they are. I don't want to, you can go watch the video and see if you can figure it out. I don't even need to say it right now. But I do want to say something about the big lies in general and where you may find yourself in them. Now, one thing I did bring up in the series when talking to Jesus, he's on the series with me, is that one thing we talked about was that depending on your day type, you may be taken in by one of the big lies over the other more often or more consistently. It'll be the one that like just gets you. And I said, well, you might want to look into which one that is. Like, figure out your date type, figure out which one, then you might be able to figure out your date type as well. Which one really gets you? Which one makes you like, just what? I don't know. It makes you feel crazy when I think about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about whether this is flat or round. It makes me mad to even think about whether it's flat or round. Where I am. Makes me mad to think about how they could have messed with me about that. Or perhaps the one that's about time, because time makes you feel crazy, makes you feel out of control, makes you upset. You have a lot to say about it. Perhaps you would know what your date type is because of that. The gender one definitely can help you if you can figure it out from there, especially like who you were attracted to, why you were attracted to them, how it makes you feel if you find out that they're actually a different biological sex than you thought. All of that can help you there. By the way, I've been thinking about, did you guys see Brad Pitt on the red carpet in a bad skirt? I mean, yes, it was a great skirt because it was high fashion. No, it was even for him, it was a bad skirt. He wears dresses a lot. I don't know why I'm like, Brad Pitt has been wearing dresses since he was like a lot. He wears dresses a lot. And they showed his legs, like showing off his muscly calves. I looked at those legs and I was like, that's someone who's been having to do a lot of testosterone their entire life. It's just been hidden underneath their pants. Because that's a woman. That's why. Because that's a woman. Biological woman. Who's been taking testosterone for a very, very long time. It lasts longer. But at a certain age, it doesn't last anymore, which is why all old male heartthrob stars look like old ladies, because they do. And rock stars, they all look like old ladies, because they are old ladies. You can't hide it forever. You can't hide it forever. Anyway, I thought it was funny, because the legs were crazy. They're like, Love's showing off his tattoos. I was like, and his crazy veins from doing so much testosterone. Moving on. It lasts a lot longer than doing estrogen. It meaning your looks last longer, and I think even your health goes a little longer than doing massive amounts of estrogen. And you have to stop just doing estrogen at some point. At any rate, because they're steroids. Everyone it was like they're a hormone replacement. They're steroids. They're steroids. I've done so much research on it because I was like, why does everyone just insist on not saying these are steroids? This is crazy. I was like, maybe I'm confused. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's not. No, they're just steroids. And steroids will kill you. Everyone knows that. They'll kill you. Moving on. Anyway, that one, very upsetting for people. But it can help you know where you're at on the day type map. And then the fourth one, who runs this bitch, is you can definitely know where you're on the day type map if that's the one that makes you go, my brain is broken even thinking about it. And can one group of people be running anything? Is that possible? What? Yeah. So the reason I have to have an addendum to this video is because there's, how do I put it? There's something I like to call the spaghetti lasagna. And it's how Satan built the pain matrix, if you will, like the overlay. I kind of like to imagine it like if you had if Earth, is just flat with a dome, then the pain matrix is like this pyramid projection in the middle of it. Trying to get its tip all the way up to heaven, up to the throne. He was thrown in heaven, yeah? You can imagine that. There's some illustrations of that kind of like picture, not of the pyramid in the inside, but of the dome of who was thrown on top. And to do that, though, it's layered. There's the pressure part, oppression, suppression, repression, and then there's the reality layers, and I like to call that, and it's flat, like reality layers going up, I call that spaghetti lasagna, because it has these flat noodles, lasagna noodles, that create barriers between sections, and sometimes I call it like it's different matrices. So each lasagna layer, like noodle, represents one of those. And then in between, there's a bunch of spaghetti. And if you're trying to break through, you want to get out. You're like, I got to get out of this matrix. This is crazy. I got to escape this matrix. You're going to run it. You're going to be really excited about busting through one of the big lie lasagna noodles, And be like, oh my goodness, I finally understand this thing is not round and wet and spinning all crazy style, 660,000 miles per hour through a giant universe. It's not doing that. Doesn't feel like it's doing that, and it's not doing that. Whew, oh man, it's great to get out of that. Oh wait, oh man, spaghetti. Now it's just crazy spaghetti. And I can get lost in that crazy spaghetti, following threads like, yeah, but the guy who told everyone that was a Mason, and that means it was a lie. And then it's like, you can go on forever. You can go on forever. But maybe that guy isn't so bad, but he's a Jew, so I'm sure that you can just go, like, it gets insane. You might even get through all of that be like, okay, I got that one. And you like get to the next lasagna layer. And that lasagna layer has to do with time and money, because money and time are inextricably linked together, and they're doing it, and you can get lost in that spaghetti too. Even after you bust out of it, there's like spaghetti on the other side. You'd be like, well, I know the Fed doesn't work for the Fed, but does it? What is? I mean, it's a private bank, and then what? Who's in charge of that, and who's making all this money? Where's that $25 million a day in interest going? I want to know, because if we can get to them, we can stop this. Protest and work, protest and work. There's a lot of spaghetti noodles that can get you really, and the spaghetti noodles are all crazy. Like, you might not ever find the other end of it, because it's all knotted together and nuts, and you can spend your whole lifetime on one layer of the spaghetti lasagna, being like, this is what I got to figure out, because this is what's going to change everything. For me, for everyone else, for this. It's like, it is a brilliant design. Satan's good at some stuff. He's good at stuff, especially when it comes to tricking people. So it's a really good design, and it can have you trapped forever. And there's so many intricacies inside of those lasagna layers. Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't recommend not going for it. You gotta, I mean, why not? Like, dive into the thing. One, keep some things in mind. One, just believe everything. Just believe everything. Just be like, yeah, I can see how that story is true. Yeah, I can see how that story is true. I can see how that story is true. Because if it's all a lie, why not just believe everything? It will help you find what's true. Because a lie cannot exist without truth existing. Like light and dark, you see what I'm saying? Like, dark is the absence of light. A lie is the absence of truth. It is not itself. It is not in itself. A lie is not in and of itself anything. It has to have truth. It has to have truth. I'm just waving at people when they come and they leave. I wave at them and be like, hey, I saw you. I saw you. A lie is on its own, can't exist. Truth has to be there first, and then the lie can happen. So if you're digging down into lies, you will find truth. You will find it. Whew, just don't get stuck anywhere. You know, in the story of the Iliad, you know how, like, he has to go away, then he has to come home. That's part of the thing. You got to go away, find some stuff, then come back. You know the part where it's like, get stuck on the island, the lotus eaters, and everyone's like, we're just going to stay here, man. It's cool. It's cool. We just stay here. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? There's lots of little places like that in the spaghetti lasagna where you're like, this is really comfortable. Like, it's really cool to go to, like, the Flat Earth Convention and, like, hang out with all these people who, like, believe in Flat Earth, and, like, they know it's a lie, and they're like, I can find my wife here. It's like, you can make a whole, you can, like, set up camp and live in Flat Earth. You could just do that, and nothing else matters. That's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap. I'm telling you, it's a trap. It's a trap. You have to keep going. I made that video's over a year old. I didn't put everything in it. We just made those videos and talked about stuff, and we're like, yeah, that's interesting. If you go, if I had never, I wouldn't even be. But here's the thing: I wouldn't be where I am now with any of those lies if I had not just dove in and done it. Even the stuff that didn't work, the stuff that's on the Lotus Eater, it's like just a place to go hang out for a minute. Feels really exciting and comfortable to be there. So it can make you really, really mad. I've noticed there's a lot of anon influencers that either like started at Flat Earth or something. It makes them like, they start to kind of lose it and get bitter and angry and really mad at people, and like end up fighting over Flat Earth stuff with other Flat Earth people. Like, they just spend their whole life there doing that. Some of them move on to things. It's like, you know, from there, obviously, space is fake. Like, what is NASA doing? Why do we give them so much money every day? Why do we all work so they have money to make fancy paintings? Like, what is going on? Like, all of that is part of that spaghetti. That spaghetti comes out of the lasagna noodle for the spaghetti lasagna. And there's no reason to get lost there. Just don't get lost. Just keep going. It's worth it. If you just keep going, it's worth it. I'm telling you. You might bust through a few lasagna layers you barely care about, that you're like, oh, I didn't even like care about that. I didn't know. But you're finding out truth that all these lies are built on. Satan built them all on something that's true. Something about it is true. So that's my addendum. When you're escaping the Matrix, you're going to go through a spaghetti lasagna. Every layer, it gets to get easier. It gets easier to like just blow through a layer and blow through that spaghetti and just be like, well, you know, I just take whatever I find out I'm just going to take everything as true, as something, as a lie worth knowing about, so that I can find out what is true underneath it. Because they didn't make it, they can't make anything original. Nothing, can't make anything original. So there's always a truth underneath it. And I think it's worth knowing something, like whether it's the thing about the time one, like, is not my particular big lie, but for my day type, but it gave me a lot of space to think about some things, and to feel when one of the spaghetti noodles, like, I know, guys, maybe we'll probably do a video on this at some point, but have you heard of the spaghetti noodle that's about the potential and the possibility that all of the prophecies up through Revelation 20 in the Bible have already come to pass? They already happened. And we're just living in the 20 on piece, which isn't very thick with activity. It's not a lot of it in the Bible. Like Revelation 20 on is not a lot of stuff going on. So perhaps we're just in what some Bibles translate as the little season, others as the short while. I would not be in that, onto that spaghetti noodle, if I had not at least looked at a mud flood. And I know mud floods don't matter. They don't matter. If I hadn't looked at that, or Antiquitech, I wouldn't even be close to it. And when people said it to me, my first thought with every big lie is, how that couldn't be true. And this is the crazy part about it. When someone says it to you, like, maybe all those prophecies already came true. And if you know the Bible, or if you studied the Bible, or if you were at any point in your life, you'd be like, wait, no way, there's no way, because, like, this hasn't happened, and that hasn't happened, and clearly that hasn't happened. And you're like, well, why would I know? Of course, big lie, history's not real. Oh, of course, it's possible. But if you hadn't looked back at what all the lies and the secrets being kept about history, whether or not the 1A9 you're listening to of John Levy is Mason or Mossad or whatever wants to talk about him being, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If you hadn't watched 4 videos of him being, like, talking low and slow over all these photos of the World's Fair and being like, but how did they have all this lighting for the World's Fair in 1880? Like, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to hear when someone says, yeah, but maybe the 1,000-year reign of Christ already happened, and now we're just in this part, and then this will happen. You wouldn't be able to hear it. You just say, like a chat I had with a bunch of Christians about Ezekiel 38, which is also prophecy about Gog and Magog, but not like the Revelation 20 Gog and Magog. I mean, it is, but it's different in terms of interpretation of the prophecy. It was trending on Twitter, and I just got into it with someone about maybe this possible 1,000-year reign already happened thing. And it went, I mean, I had a lot of people yelling at me, bots and anons, and like a lot of Christians and Christian PhDs being like, I said, well, I completely understand. I have 40 years of studying the Bible. Like I agreed with you for 40 years, like deeply agreed. I'm just putting it out there. Just look into it. Just see what you feel after you see it. You might feel like, maybe you might. They're like, no, definitely not. Take care. I'm like, okay, you too. Take care. It's like, it's cool. So dive into the spaghetti lasagna. Don't be too worried about it. Just don't get stuck on any one thing being like, this has to be true. And if you are stuck on one of the layers, like one of the big lies, if you're stuck on it, like you don't want to believe it, you're mad at it, whatever, that may be an indication that it's your big lie, the big lie that speaks to you, that's literally created to specifically mess you up. To mess you up specifically. To make sure you don't ever reclaim the soul that you are, the living, breathing soul that you are, because you'll just get confused and like drowning in spaghetti, basically. Anyway, so that's my addendum. I'm gonna put it on YouTube and, see what happens from there. I don't know what the next power grab is gonna be about. I never know, really. sometimes. But no, I don't really know. I don't know what the next one will be about. Maybe it'll be about time, because I think that's a really interesting subject to talk about. Because I live in a different time than you, and it is different. It is different over here. And we've been doing it for maybe, total time doing it, a couple of years now, but I've just gradually rolled parts of it out, because you're never going to change people's calendar and their clock and stuff. You just can't do it all at one time. That's crazy. And I may be crazy, but I'm not sadistic. But it's been 2 years, and there's some other changes happening with it, and it feels like really great. It does. It feels really great. It feels really different. Really, really different. We're ahead of you, and that feels great to be ahead. In fact, I'll get into it next time, but like, we changed the clocks and refused daylight savings time. And as soon as it did that, the place that we were going to at the time, headed to, a senator from that state introduced the Sunshine Act, a bill to permanently catch up with pleasure matrix time. I was like, you know what? You guys are annoying. So I'm going to change the clock again. I changed the clock again. So everybody, I hope you all have a wonderful day today. And though this was not a headline news hour for Power Grab, it was, I think, important to say. We'll get back to headline news, later this week. Have a good one.